Wow, you're really gonna sit across the way, huh?
Well, figured split it up since.
Okay, you don't get to see what slide is
Nice.
next. But that's fine.
Surprised.
Hey, Bruce. How are you?
Hey, Bruce. How are you?
Good.
Good, good. How's it have a hole?
I do.
Sorry.
I don't think, we don't know what it is. He's just had, I don't think it's
One damn thing
contagious.
after another.
He's had a nasty cough, not much else, so. Gets better when he stays home and drinks like 5 pots of ginger tea.
How you doing? Victor.
No.
We didn't sign up for online, but so far, no.
There you go. Well, it's not
Oh, cool.
noon.
Boy, they have. Or online?
What it is,
I see that.
I think Courtney was gonna turn me to.
Not a good chance for me.
Pretty good, thank you. It's nice to be called out, thank you.
Very severe. Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time, but I enjoy it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, part of what we do.
Some.
If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't work at it.
Right.
Okay, nice on the green jacket.
I know.
I failed.
You did?
Just
I sat
try.
down at my desk today, I'm like, shoot.
Frank doesn't probably own anything green.
What?
You probably don't even own anything green, right?
This is the greatest black shirt. I one forgot.
You have.
You have
you're
freedom.
I do.
It's fine.
Normally I'd say I'm Irish, I don't have to wear green, and then I found out last year I'm not Irish like at all.
Okay.
That's really
So
funny.
I am, so I can count myself as
Yeah.
that.
There you
There you
go,
go.
there you go.
Let's just wait a couple more minutes.
That's fine.
Because you know, people are busy and running.
You can tell people about parking who might not know.
Yeah, okay, just make sure you scan the QR code for parking if you parked in the board building parking lot. You get a ticket, don't worry, you just need to send it to us and we can get it waived.
But it makes you anxious.
It does because they're expensive.
Yeah.
I think they're like $88.
Yeah, our Ken and I both got one that was like this enormous ticket. I go, God,
What?
and
And you
Angie,
get it like 3 months after
Yeah.
you get into our office.
exactly.
Like, why would?
Exactly.
It's like.
No, we joined it.
I'm
Sure.
Come on.
Like Julia.
I did one and I was like, all right, I learned my lesson.
I can.
Well, I don't think I know every single person in this room.
So who are you?
Yeah, and okay, Jeannie, you're gonna have to speak up because even though it's not, the air's not working great, there is still a.
I know, and I worry about that, but
That
Joe,
should be totally fine.
Joe said this word. So
Okay.
for the people in the room, I'm gonna have to speak up, right?
Okay.
Okay. What?
Begin.
Okay, let me just do a
We're
quick
waiting.
introduction.
Yeah.
And then she can begin. Okay, thanks everyone for being here. Since Joe and I have been here, this is the most people we've had attend this, so this is really exciting. And you are in good hands. Jeannie and RK have been doing this for years. Jeannie has, and RK has jumped in the last few years. Jeannie was elevated to the College of Fellows in 2013 and was the first woman from Utah elevated to the College of Fellows. And she is currently the Chancellor for the College of Fellows. Yes.
We'll talk about it a little bit more, but what that is.
I don't know when you were elevated. I'm
2001.
Okay, 2001. RK was AIA national president. They both are super involved at the national level, and we're very, very lucky to have them involved at the local level. So I'm gonna let them take it from here, but it's usually been a really informational, informal process, and we're really grateful for them for giving their time.
Thank you, Angie. I'll say it should be informal, you guys. So we have a presentation, but if you have a question partway, just ask it, you know? And if we're gonna get to it later, I'll just say, we're gonna get to it later. Okay? So, actually, RK was involved in developing this newer presentation copy of the Pathway to Fellowship. RK, you should know, was on the jury of fellows for 3 years and was the chair of the jury in his final year. So he intimately knows the process of jurying.
I've literally seen thousands.
He has.
of those.
So, yeah, who are we? We kind of said that already, but I added our objects, and we'll talk about objects as we go on here. So I was elevating object 2 in RK and object 3, and if you don't know, you'll see what those are shortly. So we have a little agenda. I'm gonna tell you just a little bit about the college. Then we're gonna talk about how you get ready for it, and what the application process is like, and the jury process, and all the things. And I will say this, some of you may not know if you are ready to pursue fellowship, but what this will do is it will give you a chance to think about what you might still want to do to increase your
Success rate.
success rate. Thank you. So who we are, can you make that a little like up at the top or something? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so the college, some people get the idea that the college is about what you've done in your career. And you get this thing and it's like a big award, right? But it isn't actually. It is a recognition of what you have been doing to advance our profession. But it also, you're not done with it. I mean, a lot of the fellows in Utah seem to think that they're done with it and they don't do anything else. And RK and I are really anxious to convince you that if you become a fellow, it's kind of like you're required to do more, right?
It's definitely not a lifetime achievement.
Right.
Because just enduring a long career won't get you over the finish line. in this
Exactly,
race.
exactly. So, you can apply for fellowship after you've been a member for 10 years, which I assume all of you have gotten that letter that you're now eligible, perhaps. I have had a few people.
Well, every year we try to send out another to everybody who's met that 10-year.
Yeah, I started doing that when I was president of the AIA in Utah, and I think it's important for people to understand that, you know, you've been a member for 10 years, so there you go. So one of the things we do is we want to promote purposes of the AIA, advance the profession of architecture. A big part of our job is mentoring younger architects, and it isn't just young architects, it's people maybe mid-career even who need some mentorship. That's one of our jobs, but my favorite is to be of ever-increasing service to society. So there you go. One thing that you may not know is that, and this is an interesting historical fact, the College of Fellows was founded in 1952, but neither of us brought our red book, huh? Oh well. In the red book, it's a list of all fellows from when the AI began. But there weren't technically fellows. In the beginning, everyone who joined the AIA as an architect member was called a fellow. Weirdly, I don't know. And then there came a time when people said, there are 2 levels of membership. There were associates and there were fellows. And then pretty soon somebody said, I think we should have a different group of membership category for people that have advanced our profession. And that was 1952. And so it's pretty fun when if you do get elevated, you get this book called The Red Book that lists everyone. And you look through it and it's like Eros Saarinen's in there, Frank Lloyd Wright's in there. It's kind of interesting to browse through. So it is one of the highest honors that the AI can bestow. Obviously, the gold medal is higher, but like most of us are never gonna get a gold medal. I will tell you that only 3% of all architect members typically, are elevated to fellowship. This is, interestingly, and I don't know how it happened, but this is where I was elevated in Denver. The Ellie Calkins, Opera House, and one of the people elevated that year had just done a renovation to this place, which, can you imagine how special that would be to get your fellowship at a place you just remodeled? Anyway, every year we have somebody wonderful do a sketch and all the fellows get that, so that's what that is. So the college is comprised of an executive committee, which is me this year as the chancellor. Our friend Stephen Spurlock, he is an architect in DC area. He's actually right now working on renovation of the Lincoln Memorial, which is cool as can be. Bill Hercules, he's an architect in Orlando. He does a lot of medical and healthcare. And Lisa Lampkin, who is a school K-12 architect like me, she's in Dallas area. And then we have our executive director, who is remarkable, Musa. And if you get going in this process, if you have questions, Musa will answer all your questions. She kind of runs the jury now. And then John Pendorf, who is our newly elected chair of the regional representatives. So there are things called regional representatives, and you may all remember that AI used to have regions. Well, the College of Fellows still kept regions because there aren't that many of us, right? So within each region, we have representatives, and right now, Western Mountain Region has two. One is a man named Greg Greason, he's in Colorado. And our other rep is
John,
who?
or Glenn,
I think it's Glenn Fellows
Glenn Fellows in Arizona.
in Arizona, but I can give you that information if it helps you.
Roger Jackson is.
Roger Jackson is our local Utah rep. So. So what do? We collect, we beg people to give us money. And what do we do with that? Why do we do that? Because we promote research. We have a thing called the Latrobe Prize, which is probably the most prestigious award for architectural research. And every time we give one, it's a 2-year, $150,000 grant. It used to be 100. We got to up that recently. We do a thing called component grants, and Angie knows because AIA Utah's gotten it. And what that is it's components, and people will come up with an idea like mentoring kids who are underprivileged in the Bay Area. That was one of the ones we gave last year. And they have a whole program of, it's a pipeline thing, so that we can get people to become architects. Anyway, we give pretty much 50,000 a year, more or less, to components across the country for that. And typically fellows have to be involved in these programs. We have a thing called the Aligned Mentoring Program. We help to support, and that is for people, you know, a lot of people are lucky enough to live in a place that has a lot of people that can mentor them. And so Align helps young architects get some mentoring that is remote, in fact. Now that we all know how to use Zoom or whatever other software you use, it's been really helpful. We give opportunity grants, which is, we gave Western Mountain Region money to get that going again. We have a thing called Inspire at AIA National, and it's so much fun. Somebody said, well, what, all these architects, some of them have children, right? And do you bring them to convention? Maybe, but if you bring them to convention, do they have anything to do? So we've now, for the last few years, have had a booth where they can learn sketching from an architect, they can do Legos, they can build marshmallow and spaghetti structures. They have a blast, and then we send them on a scavenger hunt out through the main expo floor. And I'll just tell you, one of the kids said, this has been the best day of my life, a 10-year-old kid, literally, isn't that cute? So we do that, and then we have, we participate with the AIA and FJON Research Initiative, which again are smaller research grants. We spend $25,000 of our money on it, and the AIA does the same. But we also are in charge of that jury. I chaired that jury this year. And then at National Conference, we do a really cool seminar that we've done for a number of years with 2 recent Young Architect Award recipients and 2 fellows, and we've had some, it's always super well attended. If you happen to go there, you should try and get to that program. So those are some of the things we do. Now, RK, they're probably tired of hearing from me, so I'm gonna let you talk about this.
So the process to get in the pipeline here for the pathway, it's not something you're gonna want to start tomorrow. As Bruce knows, as Warren knows, it takes a long time to put this submittal together. It's a very strictly managed process, 45 pages. We'll get into the structure of it, but it's intended to illustrate not only your contributions, what you've done, but what the ripple effect of your contributions has been across the profession and across society. As I said earlier, it's not a lifetime achievement. It's not about longevity in the profession. It's about the impact you've had beyond your immediate sphere of influence.
Besides being a good architect, which we all hope to be.
Being a good architect, baseline, you're in the institute. It's what you've done beyond that we're looking at. So, and it's often interpreted that you have to have been, you know, an officer in the institute, you have to have won national design awards. No, we'll get to this later. But it's about expanding your network beyond just what you do and touch to influence society and architects overall. So there, you can go to the AIA website and in the fellowship category. Every year we populate that with exemplary portfolios that people submit. So you can look at the objects, which we'll get to in a minute, and see what other people have done to tell their story about the impact they've had on the profession and society. Okay? And it's definitely not a sprint. It takes a good year, right, Bruce, to really put it together. We've got resources available both online with AIA National, but the Honor Awards jury with Daniel's help. We offer support to review and critique your portfolio and your story as you go along. The other fellows who've been successful in Utah participated in that mentoring process. So you're not out there alone. You can get a lot of help. So this is kind of the rough schedule. Submittals are always due in the first week in October of every year. The portal opens up usually in April to be able to start the process. You have to go online. You have to submit your name, validating and they can then validate your 10 years of experience as an architect member. You need your sponsor. Sponsors.
We have a slide for that.
Okay. So as you can see with the schedule here, you know, there's a kind of an outline that gives you a way to go through the process with your sponsor, your references, getting all your stuff together to go through it. Okay. The thing to remember is it's always the portal for submittals close at 5 p.m. Eastern time on the day.
Yeah,
I was once sponsoring a candidate
it happens.
whose team putting it together didn't realize it was 5 Eastern and called me at 4 o'clock
I
Pacific
know.
time and said, "Oh, we misread it." It's like, "Oh, well, just put it on the back burner, we'll get it fixed." Okay, the sponsor is a key player here. You want your sponsor to be somebody who will be forthright with you about your story, somebody who can give you a serious critique in your approach to what you're doing, in your telling your story. Somebody that can reach out to references each year. Initially, you're allowed 6 references. And then if you're unsuccessful first year, you can add 3 in a second year or a third year submittal. But your sponsor should help guide your reference writers, to make their reference letter very specific to you, their knowledge of what you've done, and, help advise them to tell their story about you effectively. Okay? Your sponsor can be an AI member. They don't have to be a fellow. I would advise that you want a fellow to be your sponsor. Just adds a little bit of more gravitas there. The reference letters are really critical. I guess we got this.
Well, we
We
do.
got that later too.
I was gonna add that the sponsor needs to be someone who knows you really well. They have to really know you. And, if they don't, it's because it's not a formality. It's a hard job to be a sponsor. So I've only been a sponsor once. RK's done it quite a few times.
Yeah, but the sponsor, should help you with outreach, so you don't necessarily want somebody in your own firm to be your sponsor. A little too close of a relationship. If it's somebody outside your area who's your sponsor, that's gonna be helpful too.
So my sponsor was Bill Miller when he was dean at the School of Architecture, and he did know me very well. RK, who was your sponsor?
He was just a colleague that I knew on the board.
Okay,
Objects, the category in which you submit is your first critical decision. There's 6 objects. And several of them have subcategories.
We'll go through
Being
those.
more specific.
Yeah.
But the object is really the area where you feel you've had your greatest impact. Kind of your focal point, okay? Your portfolio will be well-rounded to illustrate you are an architect, right? You're a rounded individual, but your area of particular expertise is where the object comes in. Okay?
there we
Okay, so
go.
we've got 6.
And there's a sample application on the AIA.org website.
Yeah, studying the sample application is.
And I will say that when I pursued it, I thought my story would be totally different. My object. And after I did a really hard thing where I just wrote down everything I thought I had done that had made a difference. And then I tried to figure out what is that story? And then I actually picked my object after that. I was thinking it would be a different object than I ended up with. So, and RK has said that on the jury, they sometimes find people that have, in their opinion, the wrong object selected. So that's.
It does happen occasionally where the jury will recommend somebody move from one object to another.
Yeah.
Just because of.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I'm never going to do this. Does the jury give feedback and comments?
Yes.
Okay,
So every year after, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Okay, so let's go through those objects for a minute.
Objects.
Yeah. There's a myth that the people that get their object one fellowship in design are like much better than the rest of us, but
Everybody wants to do object one. I'm a great fucking designer.
exactly.
Right? Everybody, you know. I would go for the gold medal, but I'm humble, so I'm just gonna make stuff. Okay? So there's 3 subcategories, architectural design, preservation, urban design and planning. So if you're gonna go after this category, you do want the design awards that
You
back
do.
up. You want publications about your projects, and you want to do some writing.
Yeah,
You need to be known beyond your region.
They-
You don't have to have a national design award.
but the idea there is that your great design has influenced others in a positive way,
Exactly.
right?
That
So how do you show
the
that?
way you've approached design and your work embodies something that's elevated to art and craft
Right,
in the design reference.
all right, object 2. This is what a lot of us regular people go after it in. And it says practice management, but also practice technical advancement. You know, I mean, I have done a lot with a lot of organizations, which I included in my application, but my base story was really the school design, and that all that I've done to help others and that, it could have been design, I guess, but there were too many other things, I don't know.
But yeah, we added the practice technical management issue here for the guys who were, the facade nerd, right? Guys who were really deep dive into either a building type or a particular aspect of building science. Practice management is, how you run the practice, how you advance, the management of projects and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So object 3,
leading the profession of architecture or the building industry.
so this was my category. In my service at AI San Francisco and AI California, and then on the national board. But it's also other architectural organizations like NAB or
InCard,
your local design institute, something like that. So this is more about building up and promoting the profession more broadly. Okay.
Question on that, does that make it beyond your region?
Yes, so we'll get to ripple effect in a little bit, Julia, but yeah, bottom line here is, what have you done beyond your immediate realm?
okay, object 4. Well, it's public service and government and stuff like that.
So this is kind of the non-traditional track.
So-
People who are working in government service, other organizations outside the architectural realm.
So for example, Gary Payne and Brian Turner, who are school district facilities people, that is the object that they both received their fellowship in.
So they were enabling good architecture.
Yes.
Up in Davis County. And object 5. This is a tougher one.
It is very tough.
The Services Society, Alternative Careers, and then work with organizations that are not directly linked to the architectural realm. So, we see a fair number of submittals here. It's a much smaller number, but there are some folks that will succeed in this object.
Yeah, at the end of the presentation, toward the end, we have statistics for the last 3 years, so we can show you how many people go in all of these. And object 6 is really designed mainly for professors of architecture
Well, and researchers.
and researchers, yeah, and what have you. Okay. So,
So the heart and soul of what you're gonna focus on is your portfolio. How
yeah,
you tell your story.
develop your story thoroughly. I think what I would say also is, and RK, you could speak to this better than I did, but they kind of have to look good too, right? Your submission. I mean, it should look good and be organized.
So, yeah, design is everything, right? So you have to design your portfolio, just have to know the building design, a set of construction measures. So there is a structure that most candidates will follow. We'll see it in the sample portfolios and the sample application. But you want to make it easy for the jury to find that for the information. The other thing you want to do is you want to provide enough backup to your story to make it credible. I can't tell you how many, when we get into the portfolio, how many portfolios I've seen where somebody is like, oh, we do DEI, we do sustainability in their first page. And you never see anything again. That's it. It's like, give me some evidence that, you're breaking some new ground on sustainability. Or, you're doing an outreach to minority communities to bring people into the profession. So make sure your story is backed up by metrics and data that shows, yeah, you really do these things. The other thing is, each section has a page limit.
Yeah.
Use every page, but don't make it so dense that the jury can't get through it and find the data. Okay? Leave some white space.
Yeah, I think
White space is good.
some I've seen, they're quite good. They have all the stuff you need, but then they have like some colored parts that are where if you're the jury person reading through 40 of these things, you're gonna definitely notice that piece that says, and if you want more, you can look harder, right? I'm just saying, it makes a difference.
But the core here is that whatever you include, you have to make sure that its significance comes through. You see a lot, like in object three, you see a lot of, people who've held offices and on various buildings and things, but nothing about what they did in that chair. So if you were president of AI Utah, what did you do?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Our kid taught me that before I went and pursued mine. He gave me that advice. And so I thought about it. I thought, well, when I was on the state licensing board, I made it so that you could get an inactive license. That was one of my things. And when I was on the NCARB, I led like 6 committees, but one of the things I did is I made it so what we used to call interns didn't have to do the volunteer work anymore. I mean, I managed, you have to think of what did you do? And I think that is the kind of the value of
Right.
that comment. Okay, well, this is kind of all the same thing here.
So you can see, the focusing on results, on metrics, and what you've done, demonstrating that it had some impact. And what did you do that was above and beyond just delivering great projects for your clients?
Yeah.
Everybody does that. Special. And what makes you special?
That is the ripple effect.
And that gets to the ripple effect. It's a shorthand we use for the little touch you do and how it goes out. So whether it's through public service on committees, writing about you, writing about your projects, but what are the things that you're doing to spread your influence beyond your neighborhood?
Yeah,
A lot of portfolios I've seen, people who have done, every project for 50 years in their hometown, but nobody beyond the county line knows who they are, right? That's not gonna get you there.
well,
It's being known and having evidence that you've impacted other professionals or other members of society beyond your
Yeah.
immediate
So
environs.
one of probably my main thing was that, I got into K-12 design and was very heavily involved in kind of transforming how educational environments are designed. And what I did with that is I went and I spoke about it and many venues, but National AIA Convention, I probably have done like a dozen presentations there. And so it was really funny because my partners used to say, why are you sharing our secrets about school design with everybody? And I said, if I could design every K-12 school in this country, I wouldn't, but I can't. So I think it would be nice to share what things we found successful, So that was probably one of my main parts of my portfolio, was sharing that knowledge that we had
Right.
come with.
So,
Oh, yeah, you should talk about that.
aligning, also demonstrating how what you've been doing aligns with the goals and values of the institute, how you're promoting good architecture and the benefits of good architecture and design for all members of society. Kind of harkens back to the Winston Churchill quote after World War II, where he said, first we design our buildings and thereafter they design us. So it's how your work, whether it's within the firm, within the organization, within society, is advancing the built environment.
Why is it not advancing? Okay, well,
You need a 20-year-old to love the technology.
okay, here it
There
is.
we go. There's also, I know, Daniel and I have been for design a lot. That's another one of the pieces that you can use to help tell the story. It's got 12 steps of, how do you go about doing the work that kind of will help you focus on the things that you're already doing that help your projects excel, okay? So some familiarity with the framework, what is important, design excellence is a good idea too. It'll also help you with submitting for design. Awards.
Okay, to be clear, it's a 40-page format.
It's about 40 now.
And, the first page is your sponsor letter. And the second page is your summary. And I would recommend to all of you, you'll rewrite that summary, I don't know, 40 times at least. What I thought was important was, as I developed what I thought my story would be, I rewrote that summary over and over until I got it pretty good. And my sponsor said, because we had identified my letter writers early, and we'll talk about that. You send that summary page to them, that your sponsor does, and says, you know, Bruce, I think you should talk about this aspect of Jeannie's career. And, you know, Craig, I would like you to talk more on this subject, you know, so that you get this great variety, but they don't have to see your whole portfolio to write in the letter. They need to see your summary sheet so that they know what you're talking about.
And the sponsors, it's one page.
Yeah.
One page. And it's the old adage of a presentation, right?
They're both one page.
First you're gonna do is tell them what you're gonna tell them, and then you tell them a bit. So the sponsor letter needs to set up the story. And it needs to be personal. The sponsor needs to be able to be giving the jury clear direction of where you want, what to look at in the portfolio that's important. So it's kind of reinforcing. Then the accomplishments usually breaks down, people usually take 3 threads of things that they've done. Like if you're in design, it's gonna be design, and then publications and community service. But usually, as you'll see in the summary or the example portfolios, kind of set up 3 major threads of what you can do through the profession. Then the accomplishments section, section 2 is 18 pages. It's can be a long section. And that's where you're going to list projects that you've done, snapshots of the projects that you've done. Regardless of what object you're in, you still got to demonstrate your,
I think you mean the exhibits.
no, the accomplishments. You do that. And you're also going to list speaking engagements, publications, authorship, anything you've written. You're going to list those kinds of things out, as well as any awards, posts, anything you've held on that. So that goes through and sets up. Section 3 is the exhibits. That's 25 pages. That's where you'll pick out 6, 8 really significant events from the accomplishment section. And you do a deep dive in it. In that section, you'll detail what exactly that building had to do with evolution of the design process. Why that position on an NCARB committee allowed you to have a ripple effect on the mountain law. So that's where you spend a lot of time on that section to give them the nuts and bolts of what you achieve. Okay? And then after that,
So we talked about the sponsor letter,
oh,
talked about so we didn't have to explain it all right there. The best is the summary statement, also known as the zinger. You have 35 words to sum this up. And that one you write over and over. And we have a joke that when you're at investiture, everybody gets their 35 words read as they're invited up to get their medal. And every time that someone has innovative in there, it's like a drinking game, because you can't drink there, but if you could, it'd be great fun.
innovation, collaboration.
Yeah,
Diversity.
yeah,
There's a bunch of keywords.
It's
that,
funny.
Everybody's saying will have in it.
okay, so we already talked about this in pretty.
So, yeah, the cross-referencing thing in your accomplishments section 2 is important. So if you've got a project in there that's one of your exhibits, you want to tag it. Again, how do you make it easy for the jury to work through your portfolio so they can understand where you're
Right. and the exhibits.
Yeah, so this is the deep dive.
The fun story I have about exhibits is I had 10 exhibits. Some were a single page because they were like my organizational work, but some were projects. And I brought them all in hard copy to one of our honors and awards things. And I laid them all out. And everybody decided, I had them in a kind of a sequential order, like the oldest thing I had done, I put first and et cetera. And everybody convinced me that it doesn't matter the sequence, put the coolest looking picture first, the best building first, and the second best building, leave them with that at the end, and everything else goes in between, right? So,
Section 2, you want to do chronologically, right?
yeah,
But section 3, you want to do the classic
impact,
big splash, big splash at the end.
yeah,
And it's, a lot of people get hung up on the photography. If it's just good photography, it doesn't have to be, you know, Esto or one of the big shops. You guys are all good, you have good eyes, you got better cameras than your cell phone. Get some good pictures of your work. But make sure that all of the graphics, sketches, diagrams, all that stuff is great, but all of the graphics need to be supportive of your story.
yeah.
I mean, having one portfolio I was looking at in terms of accomplishments, was a series of selfies this candidate had taken with famous architects at conferences. Okay.
But don't get thick on elevators, because
Yeah, that didn't work out for her.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just make sure
Yeah.
that each square inch of your portfolio is precious. Make sure it's filled with something that supports the story, right? The backup, the metrics.
there's also a thing called a declaration of responsibility. So everything, every exhibit you have to have someone sign that you were.
Hard signature.
Oh, really?
No, the hard signatures on it.
Okay, well, I didn't have a hard
Requires
signature either. My,
declaration.
you need the declaration. Yeah, okay, thank you.
You just need the name of the person so that it can be.
So that they
tracked.
can say Craig really was the person charged
Yeah,
with this
so it
project.
was like, you know, lead designer or
Yeah.
project manager. I had one portfolio that was, object 2, practice management. And then all the rest of the story was about this candidate's design talent and the exhibits. He was the lead designer on projects. And it was like, you're telling me you're object 2 and all of this stuff is design? No, we're not, you know, the jury's not buying this, right? So you gotta make sure that your story is being consistently reinforced throughout the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the most fun part to talk about, your reference letters. And I think it's important to say several things. You need to have them from across the country. They need to hopefully be multiple, you know, different gendered people, not all white people from Utah, no. It is important that they know you well enough that they're gonna write you a glowing letter. So I found this out. You're not allowed to see those letters. Your reference letters, writers send
Yeah, they
them
get
directly
submitted
in.
directly into national, but your sponsor,
But
will often will
But-
look at that.
after it was submitted, my letter writers all couldn't resist sending me these fabulous letters they wrote. It's hilarious, you know? But I learned from that when you agree to write a letter later, you need to write a very glowing letter. And if you can't do that, you should say no, right, RK? But avoid big names. So, you know, I did get to know Moshe Safdie very well. And I know he would have written me a letter if I'd asked him to. But I didn't feel like he knew me in any other fashion than I was the project architect that he worked with here, right? So I didn't think it would be worth it to ask him. So I did, but then that was what they say, avoid big names, because if they can't talk to what you were trying to say you've done, it maybe isn't good fit.
Yeah, I've seen reference letters from big names going Craig's a great guy, you know, he can
picking on
play
you,
a
Craig.
good round of golf, he should be a fellow. It's like, no, that is not,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
big old-
That's just not helpful.
Yeah.
You know, the reference letters really need to be illustrative of.
Yeah.
I know Craig's work. I
Yeah.
remember this project that Craig did, or this committee that we sat on together,
Yeah,
and how he helped lead to this outcome.
I
So
always
the more
start,
personal the letter can
Yeah.
be, the better it hits.
I have a little formula when I write them, I always say, I've known Julia since, 1999, when she first came to work, and then you talk, I always make a basis of, I've known this person, I know what they've done, you know what I mean? So you should pick people who know that, and do the same for you.
So in your first year submittal, you need five,
I thought it was 7.
architect
Oh, right,
letters,
and
5
2,
architect letters. Members of the institute, they don't all have to be fellows.
right,
So any architect member is fair game to be part of that. But you do get 7 the first year.
yeah, you get.
So I
2
always encourage
others.
people to have a client,
Yeah,
somebody or a consultant or somebody else who knows your work well or what you've done, the story you're telling. Because that helps illustrate your work, that if, somebody outside the profession that's endorsing your accomplishments helps make your case for River. So, you gotta have a 5, DQ'd if you don't have your 5. But they don't have to all be architects. If you're unsuccessful in the first year, you get to add 3 more. Those 7 originals stay and you just add on.
yeah,
And again,
I think you can replace it too.
you could, I
Every
think,
replace.
yeah.
So like,
so make it as personal as you can.
Yeah, and the limit
And-
references
and
from your
You
own
really,
firm.
you need to lean on your sponsor to make sure they're paying attention to what part of the story you're
Yeah.
asking that reference to reinforce, and then get them in on time.
And then they do
Oh, the
disqualify you if you don't do everything right. Like if you have to have there's rules, font size. You can't have,
Well, we've seen people over the years play games, like it's supposed to be an 8.5 by 11 format, right? People will do it on 11 by 17 and then shrink it down. You can detect this, okay? It doesn't help. Because then you get into trouble with font size and so, it makes it difficult to see. You've got to hit the metrics also in terms of reference letters.
yeah,
For like design, you have requirement about the number of exhibits you have. So you just play by the rules. Pay
Yeah.
attention to the rules. The
we
jury
talked a little
process.
bit about the jury.
So the jury, it's one of the most grueling efforts that I've ever done for the Institute, but also one of the most rewarding. So submittals go in, the cutoff date. Staff will then take them and make sure they're kosher, that they've got all the stuff involved. And then about the 3rd week of October, each of the 9 jurors, and the juror selection is from around the country, and a variety of objects. So there's an effort to make sure that, the majority of objects are represented amongst the jurors' knowledge base, okay? And so the, portfolios are then distributed amongst the 9 jurors. You go through, once they're the list, you get the list of who's there, and people that you, know too well, or people from your region, you're refused to review this. Okay? So nobody from Utah is gonna review your piece. Generally speaking, a juror's gonna end up with between 15 and 20 submittals in a given year. And so then you spend The rest of October, November, December, and into January, reviewing these things. We have a rubric that we use electronically to record our comments. I found it took 3 to 4 hours to review each of those amendments. Because this is not a gatekeeping exercise. You want more fellows.
Yeah, me too.
It's a great accomplishment. It gives you, it's an entree to the next piece of your career after having been able to reflect on your past career. And so we want to, even if you're going to be unsuccessful, we try very hard with the jury to make sure we give you feedback that will let you improve it for the next cycle. Because you can go 3 times and then you have to sit it. So we want the process to help people along the path. After the jury then meets end of January, beginning of February. It's a grueling 4 to 5 day process where for 10 to 12 hours a day, we sit together and each candidate comes up. And so I'm then the advocate for the 18 or so portfolios. And I was always very clear with my fellow jurors. Here's our candidate, here's where they're from. I strongly support this one, I'm on the bench with this one, this is a no. And then go through the law. You got 10 to 12 days to review each candidate. So what I was saying about the importance of making it easy for the jury to find the information and point it out. So we get 6 or 7 minutes to make a presentation like that, and then the jury discussion. So that if they ask questions, you can respond to their questions about, see, look at this part of the exhibits, look at this accomplishment, look at this reference. And then, generally speaking, you've got really 3 refusals, but you've also, the person who's going to be next is off the period. So you're going to have on the 9 jurors, you may only have 7 or so voting, 8 more, depending on 5 to 7 voting on any given point. And I think it's 5 votes to the so it doesn't have to be an unanimous decision.
That's lucky.
But it's long days. But some of the stories of what these people have done and the effect that they've had on communities around the globe. Often we bring it to your really, really inspirational.
It's true. He didn't tell me
My
anything.
years
Yeah.
were pandemic years.
Yeah,
So for the first 2 years I was on the jury, we did it over 5 days of Zoom meetings.
isn't that horrible?
Think about 10, so that our last year we were in person, which was much better, but yeah.
I remember one evening, Kay reading me, and he didn't, he would never share anything, but he goes, you have to hear this one piece of this letter about this person. And he literally was crying when he read it to me. It was so touching. I mean,
And the jury of all the processes within the institute, the security on the fellowship process is the tightest of all. Jurors don't talk about individual candidates afterwards.
okay,
We don't,
let's talk about some misconceptions.
misconceptions, yeah. Yeah.
We already touched on the, no.
Only
we
fellows
felt-
should write reference letters. No, it's people who know you well
Yeah,
and can talk to what you know. Yeah.
only members should write it. No,
Yeah,
okay.
I always
Said
love
that.
to hear flying.
Big names. Yeah, mine was funny. I had a superintendent of a school district who was, I think he knows me very well, and he was giving my sponsor a lot of stress because it wasn't in. It was the day before, it wasn't in. Bill's calling him up. So when he sent me the letter after, it was like, I really didn't want to write this letter for Jeanne Jackson. I've been putting it off, because I know I can't do justice to her. I mean, it was that kind of thing. It was so hilarious. I can imagine people reading it going, wait a minute, oh, okay. It's fine. There are no quotas, and I'm gonna say this, is really important to know that. There are no quotas that we have to have X amount, and there's no quotas that we can't have 180. We have had some years a huge number. This year happened to be a small number. But not significantly
And
different.
it's not a competition between the candidates and.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a competition against the same. Right?
Okay, and then the timeline, yep, this is our case comment about,
Time
remember
zone.
what time zone you're in. So the results are always released, in like early March now. It used to be
Right.
February, but now it's early March. And if you get elevated, you can immediately add an F to your signature and go buy a kid. But we do the honoring at the annual conference, which is in San Diego this year. There's a ton of resources, and what we could do if you would find it useful is we can PDF this and get it to Angie and Joe, and they can, send it to anyone who wants it. February 9th. Wow, okay, I thought it was March, right, okay. So historical results, this is interesting. The historical rate of elevation, this only goes to 25, but the green is the number of applications, the blue is the number of elevated, and the yellow is the
So I've
percent.
been spending a lot of time looking at the statistics over the last 28 years or so. And, you know, kind of follows the baby boom law. So you can see the number of, the big number of applications as a percentage of the membership. And then, you know, the, number of elevations as a percentage stays pretty level. And so we've been, dropping back down to what I would say is the long-term average. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who are very upset with the small numbers in recent years. But they're remembering their classes that were, you know, 120, 130, whereas the long-term average is more like 70 or 80.
Yeah, so this is 2024, 25, and 26. You can see there were a couple hundred admissions, in the last 2 years, and this year there was 189. You know, it's not that different, but the elevation rate of 35% this last year was lower. It happens that 2023 was about 37%. So
It varies.
it varies because there's no limit to how many people can get it, right? First year submissions, usually a lot more people are elevated in their first year as a percentage, as you can see. Second year looks pretty good. Third year, there aren't that many applications in the third year, typically, as you can see. By object, see, this is kind of interesting. So if we look at just 2026, as we had said, object 2, that's where in every year, object 2 is where most people's put it in, as you can see. By gender, well, that's always interesting. There's always a lot more guys, and I think we know why. I bet in 30 years it'll be probably more like 50-50. But there you go. And then that leaves us not very much time for questions, but we are here for questions. And,
And then, like I said, the Honors and Awards Committee is happy to help mentor and give advice. So if you're interested in, getting a session with the committee, let Angie or Joe, Daniel, or I know, and we'll get you set up.
The Honors and Awards Committee meets monthly.
any other things that pop into your mind?
Questions, comments? Run screaming from the room.
So if you aren't accepted in the first application, you can apply directly after that.
The next year and the third year as well.
You can go three consecutive years, and then you have to sit out.
For like a year.
I'm not sure what they're saying. It used to be 10.
I
but
think
don't
it might be
It's less
3.
now. Yeah,
I think it
it's
might be
less now.
3. But you know, I mean, sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it does depend on the jury. sometimes it depends on how you tell the story and the people. I sponsor someone, and one of the reasons that he was told he didn't get elevated the first year was because they thought it was awful that his sponsor, me, he was my client. And they thought that looked bad. So that's the info we got after the first year. And I convinced him to go again, and we just changed things around to make it seem less. I don't know, I didn't think it seemed bad. I really believed in him. I believed in him then. So you never know why, people may or may not, get elevated first year.
But it is surprising the way that people will list accomplishments, show projects, but not provide any backup for what the effect of those projects. Those seats, like I said, how those episodes in their career have influenced the profession or society. So it's really important to evaluate what you've done beyond your region, beyond your city, beyond your state. And there's a lot of ways to influence that, right? Particularly now, we're seeing more and more candidates, with their own weekly or monthly podcasts. Okay, and if you do that, what's your readership? How many people are seeing? How geographically diverse are those readers? You can provide all those kinds of stats, and that'll help move you along. So it's really thinking about the story of your impact, okay?
But RK is right, we want more fellows.
We want more fellows, absolutely. So anything you can do to help move along, know where it finds.
Okay,
Okay, thank you both so much.
now look at that timing too, 1:00.
You guys are good.
Thank you all for coming. It's a lot nicer than having everybody just on the Zoom, and I don't know, being there.